They were never meant to notice each other. Not because they lacked opportunity, but because the rules of their lives had been written long before they met, and neither of them had ever seriously considered rewriting them. Elena had built her existence on quiet obedience. She understood how systems worked, how expectations shaped safety, how restraint could be mistaken for virtue. She had learned early that love was something earned through endurance, not desire, and that wanting too much invited loss. Her days were precise, her gestures measured. She spoke with care, listened more than she revealed, smiled when required. People admired her discipline. They trusted her. She had become reliable in a way that slowly erased urgency from her own life. Stability had replaced curiosity, and she told herself that this was maturity. Adrian entered her world without announcement. There was nothing dramatic about their first encounters, no instant attraction, no recognition dressed as fate. He was simply there, consistently, quietly observant. He listened in a way that made silence feel inhabited rather than empty. He noticed details most people overlooked. The way Elena paused before answering questions that mattered, the way her hands tightened when conversations drifted too close to the truth, the way her eyes darkened when she restrained herself. What unsettled her most was not his attention, but its quality. He did not seek to impress her. He did not pursue. He respected boundaries she had not realized she was testing. His restraint felt intentional, deliberate, almost intimate. And intimacy without touch proved far more dangerous than she was prepared for. At first, she dismissed the sensation as curiosity, then as irritation, then as something she refused to name. Desire did not announce itself loudly. It arrived in fragments, in moments she replayed without understanding why, in thoughts that lingered too long after conversations ended. She found herself anticipating his presence, adjusting her tone unconsciously when speaking to him, noticing the absence of his voice in rooms where she had come to expect it. Elena told herself that the body was unreliable. That attraction was chemical, temporary, unworthy of disruption. She had built a life on control. She was not about to dismantle it for something so imprecise as longing. Yet her body did not negotiate. It remembered him without permission. It reacted before thought could intervene. Their closeness developed without confession. It lived in proximity, in pauses that stretched slightly beyond comfort, in glances that suggested understanding without explanation. When their hands brushed accidentally, Elena felt a sharp awareness travel through her, not pleasure exactly, but recognition. As if something long dormant had been touched awake. She began to notice the contrast between the life she performed and the life she felt. One existed comfortably within expectation, approved, predictable, untouched. The other stirred quietly beneath it, restless and observant, increasingly difficult to ignore. That second life did not demand action. It demanded honesty, which felt far more threatening. Adrian never asked her to choose. He never suggested an alternative. His presence alone forced her to confront the shape of her own dissatisfaction. That was his most unsettling gift. With him, she felt present inside her own skin. Not consumed, not overwhelmed, awake. Their intimacy, when it finally crossed into touch, unfolded slowly, almost reverently. A hand resting briefly at her back, guiding but not claiming. Fingers brushing her wrist, lingering just long enough to suggest intention without assertion. When he kissed her, it was not urgent. It felt exploratory, as though he were listening to her response rather than demanding it. Elena experienced the kiss not as surrender, but as exposure. It frightened her how much of herself surfaced in that single moment. Loving Adrian did not offer escape. It offered confrontation. He reflected the parts of her she had buried beneath discipline and silence, the parts that wanted without justification, that questioned obedience, that resisted disappearance. In his presence, she could no longer pretend that her life fit her perfectly. It fit safely, comfortably, but not truthfully. As the connection deepened, restraint became its own form of desire. Every boundary respected intensified the ache. Every moment of denial sharpened awareness. Their love existed largely in what they did not do, in what they chose to withhold. Waiting became erotic. Distance became charged. Elena discovered that longing could be cultivated as carefully as control. She began living in division. One version of herself moved gracefully through expectation, fulfilling roles assigned long ago. The other observed silently, accumulating courage she did not yet know how to use. The tension between them exhausted her. She slept poorly. She questioned decisions she had once accepted without resistance. The certainty that had defined her began to fracture. Adrian sensed the danger of her division before she fully did. He began to pull away, not abruptly, not cruelly, but decisively. He refused to become an escape she could hide within. He refused to let her trade one form of disappearance for another. That distance unsettled her more than his presence ever had. In the silence he created, Elena finally heard herself clearly. When her engagement became public, the clarity arrived without shock. She felt no surprise, only a heavy, unmistakable understanding. This was the life she had been moving toward all along: stable, respectable, approved. It would be easy to stay. And that realization frightened her more than leaving ever could. The choice revealed itself not as a dramatic crossroads, but as a quiet reckoning. It was no longer between two men, but between survival and honesty, between safety and selfhood, between remaining unseen and risking the full weight of recognition. She understood then that forbidden love had never promised happiness. It demanded courage. And courage, she was learning, was not a single act, but a sustained willingness to lose what no longer fit. Days passed in a haze of observation and suppression. Elena moved through familiar rooms, streets, conversations, but everything seemed sharper, more immediate, as if the city itself had conspired to reveal what she had long avoided. She noticed details she had ignored for years. The way sunlight struck the corners of a cafe, the subtle inflections in strangers' voices, the fleeting expressions of passers-by that mirrored her own suppressed desires. Everything was alive, charged with potential, yet weighted with the knowledge that one misstep could undo the careful balance she had cultivated. Adrian appeared intermittently, never intrusive, always just present enough to awaken her awareness. The spaces he occupied lingered long after he left, like an echo vibrating within her. She realized that desire had become less about him and more about herself, the awareness he provoked, the clarity he demanded. Her body remembered him before her mind could consent, reacting to proximity with a tremor she could neither name nor fully resist. Every glance, every casual touch, became a lesson in attention, in observation, in subtle surrender. She began to catalogue herself as if she were a landscape. Every movement, every hesitation, every heartbeat. The sensation of waiting for him, or imagining his presence, became a ritual. Nights where restless sleep offered no relief. In dreams, he was there, always slightly out of reach, never fully present, yet entirely necessary. She would wake trembling, aware of every nerve, every pulse, every buried longing she had refused to confront in daylight. And yet, fear persisted. Not fear of Adrian, nor fear of discovery, but fear of herself. Fear of the honesty she now harbored, the rawness of desire that could no longer be neatly contained. Fear of the moment when restraint would no longer be possible, and she would have to inhabit her full self with no apology, no pretense, no escape. She understood, with a piercing clarity, that freedom and fear were inseparable. The more she faced her desire, the more real and terrifying her existence became. One evening, as twilight spilled through the windows of a quiet library, Adrian approached her slowly, deliberately. He did not speak at first, only observed, as if cataloguing her awareness, her tension, her hesitation. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost a whisper, carrying weight and restraint. "You have learned to see yourself," he said. "But do you know what it is you are ready to lose?" Elena did not answer immediately. She felt the truth of his words settling into her chest. Loss had always been a concept to her, abstract, manageable. But now, under the quiet scrutiny of his presence, it became intimate, inevitable, and heavy. She realized that choosing desire meant embracing not only possibility but the devastation that could accompany it. She remembered every small moment. A hand brushing hers, a gaze that lingered too long, a conversation that skirted confessions without ever naming them. She remembered the first kiss, slow and deliberate, and the tremor it had sent through her body, awakening awareness she had not known existed. Each memory was a shard of something forbidden, something exquisite, something that could either destroy or liberate her. The days stretched into a tension-filled pattern. Elena moved through life performing the roles assigned to her, while beneath the surface, a storm gathered, invisible to all but herself. Desire had transformed into consciousness, awareness of every sensation, every impulse, every fear, and every secret longing. She understood herself now in ways she had never allowed, every nerve, every thought, every pulse catalogued with painstaking attention. Then came the moment of choice. Not sudden, not dramatic, but quiet, inevitable, and intimate. The engagement letters sat on her table, pristine and accusatory, a reminder of the life she could inhabit without fear. Adrian waited in the soft evening light of the library, patient and still, offering nothing but the weight of recognition. Elena knew that staying would be easier. It would be safe, predictable, admired. But safety had never been enough to inhabit fully. It had never taught her what it meant to live. Her hands trembled as she reached for the letters, but she did not open them. She understood at last that choosing herself meant embracing risk, desire, honesty, and fear together. She sent one sentence to end the engagement, simple, deliberate, unadorned. I cannot continue. Staying would be a lie. When she met Adrian afterward, they did not speak immediately. They stood close but untouching, the space between them charged with everything they had denied themselves. I didn't come for you, she said softly. I came for myself. That's the only way, he replied, eyes steady, voice low. Recognition, not triumph, filled his words. He placed a hand briefly on hers, not to claim, not to possess, but to memorize the warmth, the shape, the reality of her existence. The moment stretched into eternity. Desire lingered without urgency. Awareness of self, and of the other, hovered between them. Elena felt whole, not saved, not rescued, but revealed. Forbidden love had not offered happiness. It demanded honesty, courage, and the willingness to embrace loss. And that, she understood finally, was freedom enough. The days after her choice were surreal in their quiet intensity. Elena walked through streets she had known all her life and yet saw them as if for the first time. Light caught in the windows of cafes, shadows stretched across pavements, and even the rhythm of footsteps on stone seemed charged with significance. Every movement, every sound, every fleeting glance of strangers carried subtle reminders of her own awakening. She was no longer simply present, she was alive in a way that frightened her, as though every sensation might unravel her, expose her fully to the world. Adrian was no longer close, yet his absence was as sharp as his presence had been. He lingered in memory, in anticipation, in the tremor of her hands when she thought of him. The forbidden intimacy they had shared, never fully consummated, never openly declared, had grown into something more potent than possession. It had become consciousness. Desire had transformed into awareness. A constant, private attention to her own heartbeat, her own breathing, her own unspoken needs. She discovered herself in these moments. Every hesitation, every impulse, every ache catalogued and felt, unafraid. And yet fear was always present. Not fear of Adrian, not fear of exposure, but fear of the self she was learning to inhabit. To be fully present, to desire openly, even silently, was to risk everything. She understood, more profoundly than ever, that freedom and danger were inseparable, and that the heart often demands courage before reason can intervene. Nights became a meditation of longing. She imagined him, not as a lover to possess, but as a mirror to her own depth. Every imagined touch, every imagined gaze, every unspoken acknowledgement sent waves of awareness through her body. She realized that longing itself could be exquisite, transformative, and terrifying. Each night she surrendered to it, not with shame, but with reverence, understanding that the forbidden was not merely external. It had always existed within her own mind, waiting for recognition. Weeks passed. Elena's engagement remained formally unresolved, though she had ended it internally. Life continued around her, but she moved through it with a heightened attention that few could perceive. Social rituals felt hollow, even the laughter of friends and the structured routines of her family seemed faint, distant, performed against the intensity of her internal awakening. Every glance, every sound, every touch carried layers of meaning she could not ignore. Then, one evening, Adrian appeared. Not with urgency, not with words, not with any expectation of rescue or restitution. He simply existed in the doorway of the dimly lit library, as he had always appeared in her life. Patient, observant, unintrusive, demanding only recognition. Elena felt the familiar pull in her chest, the same tremor, the same awareness, yet sharper now because she was no longer unsure of herself. You chose, he said softly, stepping closer, careful to maintain space, careful not to disturb the fragile equilibrium she had cultivated. Yes, she replied, voice steady but quiet. I chose myself. He nodded, eyes darkened with understanding, lips tight but not cruel. "Not me," he said. "No," she whispered. "Not the lie either." For a long moment, they stood in silence, aware of every heartbeat, every breath, every thought that passed between them. His hand hovered near hers, finally brushing lightly, not to claim, not to hold, but to memorize, to mark her existence in his memory. She felt the warmth, the weight, the reality of it. And in that small, careful gesture, she recognized everything they had shared, everything they had denied themselves, everything that had made her finally awaken. The kiss they shared was brief, restrained, filled not with hunger but with mourning. It carried every almost, every denied impulse, every secret they had kept even from themselves. And when it ended, she felt a quiet collapse inside her, a permanent acknowledgement that desire had shaped her life without claiming it. They did not promise to meet again. They did not promise to wait. Words would have been cruel. Silence carried the weight of love fully understood, fully experienced, and fully impossible. Years later, Elena lived a life of her own making. Independent, respected, painfully honest. She loved cautiously, carefully, without losing herself. And yet, sometimes in the quiet moments between decisions, between duties, she felt the ghost of Adrian beside her, the presence of what had awakened her, what had demanded courage, and what had been lost. She never regretted the choice, but the ache remained, subtle, luminous, unyielding. And Adrian, somewhere far away, carried her memory differently. Not as possession, not as pain, but as reverence. He had loved her fully, honestly, and recognized that some loves exist only to reveal the self, never to belong. They had altered each other irrevocably. Their love was tragic, intense, unfulfilled, and yet sublime. Some loves are not meant to endure. They are meant to awaken. They are meant to transform. And in that knowledge, in that enduring ache, both found freedom, the quiet, devastating freedom of having loved and chosen honestly, even at the cost of union. The years passed, each one quietly folding into the next. Elena moved through life with purpose, strength, and a calm that disguised the fire she had once carried. She loved, occasionally, with careful restraint. She smiled at ordinary days, laughed at familiar jokes, and cultivated a life that was hers and hers alone. Yet in the quiet, in the pause between one breath and the next, she felt him, the shadow of Adrian's presence, the memory of recognition that had never demanded possession. She saw him once, by chance, across a crowded square. Their eyes met for a fraction of a moment, long enough to know that the connection had never vanished, long enough to acknowledge the love that had shaped both of them. He did not approach. She did not move. Words would have been impossible. Everything that needed to be said had been said in the restraint, in the touch that never claimed, in the moments they had denied themselves yet remembered. Elena walked past him slowly, each step deliberate, aware of the ache in her chest, the flutter in her hands, the heat in her memory. She did not reach for him, did not pause, did not look back. And yet she carried him within her, the echo of forbidden love, the intensity of desire transformed into self-awareness, the knowledge that some passions are not meant to be lived, only survived. Adrian watched her retreat into the flow of the crowd, and for the first time, he allowed a small, private smile. It was not joy, and it was not sorrow. It was recognition. He knew she had chosen herself, and in that choice, they had both been made complete, even apart. Some loves, he realized, are not meant to endure in the world. They endure in memory, in courage, in the quiet transformation of those who survive them. And that, in its own tragic, exquisite way, was enough. Elena stepped forward into her life, fully, painfully, beautifully alive. The past lingered, but it no longer dictated her steps. Forbidden love had not promised happiness. It had promised awakening. And she had awoken.